Hello everybody and welcome back to World of Warships Legends. My name is Spartan Elite 43 and tonight we are back in the Iowa and we're on Estuary, which is my favorite map. You guys all know this. But this is a battleship's worst nightmare. It would go to figure too, right? The one time that I don't get a domination match and the one time that I get a map that isn't Sleeping Giants, Sea of Fortune, or Greece. I get 8 destroyers in the match on a very small map where they literally have no other objective than to come over and kill you. And I call it right from the get-go on this map. Oh, hello, Amagi. How you doing? Now, initially, it looked like he was going to be going pretty quick. He was accelerating. So I use my plane, I launch ahead of him, he slows down just enough to let those go into his bow, do basically nothing, but the second shot's going to be a much better shot. The rear guns hit, and we get our our Citadel for 22,000 damage at the beginning of the match. It's a heck of a good start. But I'm running away from this side. Why am I running away from this side? First of all, it's estuary. I can affect the entire map from the base location. But that's not why I'm running from this side. I only have one destroyer over here. They're going to outnumber us. We only saw one battleship, which means there are likely 2 destroyers that spawned on their side of the map. Which means our guy is outnumbered. And he's an idiot. I'm just going to go ahead and throw it out there. I'm not going to mention any names. I don't care what his gamer tag is. I'm just saying, if you look at these odds and you go, I'm going to charge out into it, you are an idiot. And you deserve what you get. And it was at this moment that I called him out and go, well, I guess we just lost one of our destroyers because he is literally charging into 3 battleships and 2 destroyers right off the get-go. And some of you might be going, well, Spartan, there's no way he could have known. Bullcrap. If you have gotten to tier 7 and you haven't noticed a simple thing like certain spawns on certain maps get certain ships, and not necessarily like by the amount of ship, or not the type of ship. I'm not saying it always spawns all the battleships here or over here. I'm saying there are generally outnumbered sides of the map, and that is done intentionally by Wargaming so that they can promote people pushing forward. If everybody was set directly across from one another, you'd get a stalemate every single match until the destroyers nuke you into oblivion. That's just how that works. But if Wargaming overloads one side of the map and overloads the opposite side for the opposite team, then that creates in theory, a push that is counterclockwise. 90% of the maps that you play on, the pushes are counterclockwise, aka the people on the right side of your map are going to push forward and the people on the left side of your map are going to fall back. That is how the maps generally load up, okay? Now, there are things that you can do to influence holding your side, and that is something I stress a lot. But if you know that you have absolutely no chance of surviving your side, staying there is suicide and thereby counterintuitive to winning the match. So, we pushed over to the center of the map. We are now in a position to defend the base. Why? Because we have 2 destroyers and, well, there was 3 battleships, now there are only 2 battleships potentially pushing us. Now, the good thing is the 2 battleships are starting to push across to the other side. That's great for our team. The bad thing is, our team is just utter garbage, and there's nothing that I can do about that. All I can do in a situation like this is the best that I can. Now, in fairness, these 2 battleships that are right here, aka the Sinop and this, I forget what he is. Wait for it. Oh, it's an Ignis. That's the one. Are at least going to survive longer than everybody else on the team, which is preferable. But if you notice that the odds are stacked in our favor right now, you are out of your mind. There are 4 enemy destroyers left, and we have 1, which means our destroyers were utter trash. And I'm not saying that as a knock on their person. I'm just saying that in this particular map, we are down 3 destroyers, and they have lost 3 battleships. Now, normally you'd be like, well, I mean, they've lost 3 battleships. That's 3 heavy hitters off the board. We win. No! This goes right back to what I was saying yesterday. Well, I guess it would have been Saturday's video where we were in the Adachi and we were talking about things that you can do to win in destroyers, and dying by torping battleships is the dumbest thing that you can do early on in a match, because it eliminates your team's advantage. And right now we have 3 battleships that have to take out 3 destroyers and 2 battleships. And yeah, it's not what you would call preferable. It's not likely to occur. There is almost no way that 3 battleships can take out 2 battleships and 3 destroyers on their own. Why is that? Because destroyers don't actually have to get spotted. There's nothing on our team that can spot these destroyers. Not a single thing. Every one of our destroyers is dead. We didn't have any cruisers because, I don't know why we didn't have any cruisers. With all the cruisers that are playing nowadays, I don't understand why we ended up with 8 destroyers and the rest battleships in this particular match. But that's the way it goes sometimes. You got to make the most of it. Now, you can see I'm obviously trying to take evasive maneuvers, and we do manage to avoid the very first salvo from what I'm assuming is the Udachi that was spotted out there. I was hoping that we could catch the Udachi, get him spotted, get him out of here, because he didn't have much health left. Didn't happen, which meant I had to turn away. I cannot charge towards somebody with 80 knot torpedoes. I couldn't imagine 80-kilometer torpedoes. They're just sitting there spawn and launch torps all day long. But yeah, as you can see, we're not going to be quite so lucky because, thankfully, Wargaming gave destroyers torpedo reload boosters. Thanks! So even if you do a great job of dodging the first salvo, the likelihood that you dodge the second salvo is much lower. Now, we do only take 2 torpedoes there, but they're Japanese torpedoes, which are horrendously overpowered. And there is nobody that can argue against it. The fact that the Udachi can hit you for 22,000 damage with a single torp makes everything that we've talked about, you know, pretty obvious. Now, this Colorado gets my attention because he's broadside on, he's in a Colorado, and he's very close at under 10 kilometers. And of course, I mean, we launch a full salvo at him and we basically get 11,000 damage, if that. Because why would we Citadel a broadside Colorado at 10 kilometers? We're in the Iowa. We have 50 caliber guns, which means our guns overpen almost everything instead of Citadeling them. Now, you'd get a lot of penetrations, but that is the one knock on the Iowa that you do run into, is that at any sort of short to mid-range, you're gonna run into over-penetration problems. Now, you can try to say things like, well, if you take Robert Jajard off there, or blah, blah, blah. I don't actually have Robert Jajard as my commander inspiration, by the way. I have Andrew Cunningham, and I have Hyde. So, that gets taken out of your book. But you got to remember, the American armor piercing is the best in the game, period. There's no equal to American armor piercing because of its penetration angle. Now, there are better penetrating nations out there, like the Russians and like the Italians, but for being able to penetrate from much steeper angles, the American super heavy armor piercing that you get on the Baltimore and the American battleships is just second to none. But the problem with the Iowa is it has 50 caliber guns, and at mid to short ranges, like you get on Estuary, most of the time, you're gonna run into over penetrations, or just regular penetrations, because while they may not completely over penetrate the ship before they explode, they will over penetrate the Citadel and explode outside of the Citadel on the other side. At least that's my guess. Because that's why you see a lot more Citadels out of the Alabama. Same exact armor piercing, except it's shot out of a 45 caliber gun instead of a 50 caliber gun. The 45 caliber guns, the rounds are moving much slower, thereby making them penetrate less deeply or spend more time inside your target that you're hitting with that armor piercing, which means that you're more likely to get Citadels. But down goes our Ignis because he was chasing a destroyer down, or trying to get better shots on the Colorado. I don't know what he was doing, but either way, it wasn't a good look. Now, we're trying to turn out. We see the torpedoes. Kind of make a bit of a mistake. I probably should have kept pushing that way a little bit further. We take it right on the stern, right up the prop shaft, as I used to say. But it's okay. That one wasn't so bad. But it is still a downhill or an uphill battle here. We have the Colorado pushing out to the left of me, which is, I guess, kind of preferable because I can easily obliterate him if he comes out, but at the same time, not particularly preferable because I've managed to sail myself right into a crossfire between both of the battleships. And no matter which way I turn, I'm going to be giving a side to somebody. Kind of. The way the Amagi went right now is actually good for me because that kind of negates that fact for the moment. But just with the rear guns, as you can see, we managed to hit him quite considerably for 10,000 damage. And now we're going to flip around, try to get the fronts on. Now, I know he's going to be able to shoot at me, and he does have 45 caliber guns on the Colorado. But he also has a very exposed citadel, and he is giving it to me. And unfortunately, the game is just like, no, Spartan, you're not allowed to citadel a Colorado. I mean, that would be gratuitous, and God knows, we got to make sure that you're not citadeling other battleships who are just sailing broadside on to God and everybody, especially you. Only you can get citadeled. The Amagi would like a word with me, I know. Considering he got citadel. But he got citadel at much further range. At these ranges, it is actually difficult, not impossible, to citadel the Colorado. And with that shot, wait for it, come on. We got loaded, shot out, and that dispersion was disgusting. And, oh, he gets so lucky. The amount of survival that this guy has pulled off just by being an idiot is baffling to me. And this is one of my biggest annoyances with World of Warships in general, is that just being an idiot lets you get away with so much for so long. I don't understand it. That guy should have been dead the first time he came out from behind the island. But no, the game is like, sorry, Spartan, can't have that. And then you got Yadachi firing his guns at 7 kilometers. And then what am I going to do? I'm going to leave him with just enough to get away. Meanwhile, I'm being burned down and shot with armor piercing by their entire team because I'm all that's left. I've managed 120,000 damage in a match that was over before it even started just because of the teammates that I was saddled with. But we did the best we can, and sometimes that's all you can do. Finishing top of the team with nobody else coming anywhere near us on our team. Nobody. Ignis, one of the last people alive, bottom of the leaderboard. That shows you just how useful he was. So, if you like what I'm doing, punch the like button, leave a comment below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and as always, I will see you in the next video.